Welcome to the Cuisine Masterclass series in association with Daniel Lebrun. Thrilled to be here today, of course, with one of New Zealand's most exciting chefs, Michael Meredith.
Well, for my starter, I'm doing a classic panzanella salad, which is not very New Zealand, but very Italian traditionally. But the play is here, we're using fresh, local ingredients and some good bread and good olive oil. We're going to start off first by making the eggplant puree, which it goes on the bottom of the salad. I've pre-roasted these out the back. Just take one of these racks and just put it onto an open flame. Just pierce the skin of the eggplant and you just charcoal them until they're really burnt. Not burnt bad, but burnt enough. So you want it because obviously the eggplant's got a thick skin on the outside, so it's going to protect exactly what's inside. So you want that sort of smoky flavor coming through. It's almost like doing a baba ganoush. Instead of we're not putting any tahini in it. It's one of those things that it gets pretty hot when you're actually going to handle this. So it wouldn't matter if you put a little bit of the skin in there, just a little bit. So in there, we'll squeeze some garlic in there, just been cut and roasted. These have been roasted in the oven just for 160 degrees for about half an hour. A little bit of water, a little bit of oil as well. And I'm going to add a little bit of bread as well into this. There's two things here for adding the bread into this. Obviously, panzanella, it's got bread in it. At the same time, this will help actually bring the puree quite smooth, because normally when you puree eggplant, it gets a little bit grainy. So adding the bread in there just gives it that smooth texture and it actually thickens it up as well. Then we're just going to squeeze half a lemon in there as well. Once that's blending, we're going to actually get into the next step, which is the onions as well as the peppers. So the onions, I'm using red onions just purely because the flavor is a little bit sweeter. I'll lift the skin on and we're going to easily caramelize all sides, and then we're going to finish it in the oven as well. 15 minutes, just enough to cook the onions as well as to soften the peppers. Let's double check this eggplant puree. So obviously it's going to have, with the skin in there, it's going to have specks of black. And that's okay. I mean, it's people ask you what is it, you just tell them it's black pepper. They will never know the difference. So if you guys come to the restaurant, you have something like this, and you know what it is, so don't ask. We're going to make the filling for the tortellini here. So I've used some goat's cheese. So we're going to add a little bit of tarragon. Find that tarragon, thyme, sage, one of the most sort of savory flavors that goes really well with cheese. You wouldn't sort of expect it to be there. So we're going to finally sort of just chop the herbs. So we're going to add a little bit of water into this, just to soften it a little bit so we can easily work it. I find that, goat cheese is quite salty themselves. I wanted to add another flavor to this salad, and I wanted to add cheese. I mean, the inspiration comes from Tuscany. So I sort of came up with a way of doing a cheese ravioli, tortellini. It's pretty much using two types of cheese here. I'm using provolone, which is another Italian cheese, and then the goat's cheese. The risk here, you just got to make sure that the oven's not too hot, and obviously, 160. Just make sure the fan is off on the ovens. So while we're softening the cheese in there, so check our onions and the peppers are in here. You just want them to slightly, soften a little bit. Have that real nice aroma. And if you want the skin on of the peppers, you can leave them on as well. That's fine. I quite like the onions sort of have that nice caramelization on the outside and still a little bit just cooked in the center. So we just want to take the cheese to that stage. We're starting to melt, not completely splitting. Obviously, there's a little bit of oil that will come out of this. So just have a towel, just lightly get the oil off. So obviously, the next stage here, cheese is still pliable at this stage, so you want to take it off like that. We'll put in our goat's cheese filling. Let's repeat the same process. Just make sure that natural fat that comes out of the cheese just gets wiped off. Once you get it to that stage, just get a cutter and we'll just easily just shape it on the side. And here we have our cheese tortellinis. We're going to add the bread component of the dish. And these are just a normal sourdough. So I'm just going to easily just pan fry them. The bread just gets into the pan. So we got some Roma tomatoes here, baby Romans. Capsicums, we're just going to just peel the skin off. So we're just going to put our tomatoes in there, our peppers. So the onions, we're just going to easily just flake it off from the side. Add a little bit of salt. We got the capers. These are just normal capers. We're just going to easily just deep fry them, just to give it a little bit of texture on the outside. Normally when you fry capers, you just leave it in there until it starts the spitting. So that means the moisture is completely out, and they start to open up quite. So once that stops, the sizzling and the sound, you know they're pretty much crispy. So it's going to easily just layer it on top of the eggplant. Bread, you just break it up into pieces. I mean, it's quite a hands-on dish, so you can easily just use your fingers, your hands. And there's some courgettes as well. I'll just put this through the mandolin. They're raw. And then the tortellinis, just to give it that sort of look that's been cooked. I'm just going to just blowtorch the top of them. Obviously, you don't want to leave the heat on it too long, otherwise it'll start melting. You can put your capers on top. Normally you get whatever flowers, especially in the spring now. There's a lot of like rocket flowers, nasturtium flowers. Just a drizzle of olive oil on top. Here we have our panzanella with cheese.